Many claim to be staunchly against radical feminists, commonly referred to as terfs by those who aim to be in support of the trans rights movement on account of an erroneous belief that radical feminism wants to hurt trans people. This is not the only reason why radical feminists are hated. Quite simply, it's because we are radical feminists who are working to liberate women from the patriarchy. That means that anyone who supports the patriarchy is inherently at odds with what we say, and considering that there is a large overlap with misogyny and trans rights activism, it should come as no surprise. Part of this may be blamed on the conflation of gender critical with conservative. Often, there are no other platforms willing to hear research or opinions which disagree with a liberal take on gender, and when there are debates across the aisle, it is rare for a gender-critical woman or radical feminist to be chosen as opposition for trans rights activists. However, at its core, radical feminism is about women's liberation from the patriarchy. It is only concerned with ensuring the freedom and safety of women, and in breaking down the systems which perpetuate male dominance over us. The reason radical feminism, truly the only form of feminism outside of the West, is at odds with trans rights activism is because the gender ideology which it supports also supports gender roles, stereotypes, and has been steadily encroaching on sex-based rights around the globe. By pretending that gender, the ideas and stereotypes of what a sex should be, is innate and that sex is irrelevant, lawmakers intending to help what many see as an impoverished and oppressed minority have instead removed sex-based protections for women. For example, self-ID laws were intended to make recognition as the gender trans people identify as easier to secure. Prior laws required medical diagnosis, proof of medical transition, and that one experienced gender dysphoria, which was assumed to be best treated by allowing them to live as the opposite gender as best they could. However, just because these laws were made with the best intentions doesn't negate the fact that they have had negative consequences. Data collected by the Ministry of Justice in 2020 found that 58.9% of incarcerated trans women are there for sex offenses, in contrast to 3.3% of women and 16.8% of men. Many of those identifying as trans and living in female prisons desist upon release. One study which interviewed the women who lived besides these trans women in prison found that one woman said she now believed that a trans prisoner who she befriended whilst inside but who returned to living as a man after release had been a man wanting an easy escape from the male estate. Another said, "I've not a problem living with trans people, it's living with people who are manipulating the system and pretending to be trans." DV and rape shelters, which are made to combat sex-based violence and provide support to women, have been pressured into opening their doors to biological males, which presents the feelings and validation of a small group over the welfare, safety, and security of women. One such shelter, which maintained the need for sex-separate spaces, Vancouver Rape Relief, had its funding stripped and was targeted for harassment as a result of upholding its female-only policy. Ignoring the realities of biological sex has also led to women losing out on academic, career, and athletic opportunities as males instead take spots earmarked for women. Playing along also makes it difficult for women to address their own oppression. When they killed their partner is used instead of he killed his girlfriend, it allows for the pattern of male violence and global femicide to go unnoted. The patriarchy is not neutral. It benefits men and oppresses women, regardless of how they identify. In Argentina, the brutal murder of a prostituted woman is no longer being reported as a femicide after it was discovered that her killers did not identify as male. Brenda Cordoba, 28, was murdered on November 10th of 2021 in the Buenos Aires neighborhood of Balvanera. Grisly surveillance camera footage released by police during the investigation into her death showed Cordoba being approached by what appeared to be a man in a white hoodie and face mask. The man circled around to her back while grabbing her in a headlock and stabbing her multiple times in the chest. While Cordoba's slaying has been reported as being considered a femicide under Argentinian law for the past year, the revelation of the gender identity of her alleged killers has resulted in that classification being dropped. When we are not allowed to accurately describe our experiences, how can we enact change for the better? Ignoring when male behavior corroborates an established patriarchal status quo allows it to continue and prevents criticism. Of course, questioning the validity of trans rights activist demands or the impact of playing along is presented as a violent act. The fixation on female opposition to trans ideology is itself a symptom of the patriarchy, as not nearly the same amount of opposition is presented to the actual perpetrators of violence against trans people, men. This is the same reason that trans women argue that they don't want to use the men's bathrooms or go to male prisons. They are afraid of violence perpetuated by other men, and yet are uncaring of the violation of female spaces and safety with their own presence.
I will not be using the men's bathroom. I won't, and here's why. There's a bigger threat to me coming out of the men's bathroom for people waiting for me outside of the stall, people harming me in the men's bathroom versus using the women's bathroom. I'm not using a bathroom other than number 1 or number 2, so get that through your head. My best advice is to my girls that are trying to use the women's bathroom or feel uncomfortable using the women's bathroom or the men's bathroom, don't go alone. Don't go to the bathroom alone. Go with somebody, go with a pair, go with your friend, go with somebody that you came to the bar with. Don't go alone. We gotta travel in packs, girl. Don't go alone. This yellow on me looks so fucking good. Oh.
This is not to say that trans people are at a particular high risk of murder. The statistic that 1 in trans people are murdered is incorrect. The real amount is 1.5 out of 100,000, compared to an average of 4.9 in 100,000. Even women who experience the lowest homicide rates, white women, are 20 times more likely to be killed than white trans women. Therefore, it is important to recognize sex as sex-based oppression still occurs. Ignoring that ignores the pattern. Trans ideology likes to pretend that these issues are unimportant and that detractors of gender ideology are merely violent bigots. It's easier to pretend that everyone who opposes them are conservatives and wish them harm than it is to actually address the points that we present, which point to personal and class harm rather than helping, as they insist they are doing when they play along with gender ideology. This, dear viewers, is where we part. This is going to be the first of a series of misconceptions about radical feminism. Quite simply, I feel like a lot of people really just are ignorant about what radical feminism is, and they don't really seek out information to figure out what the truth is. That's a pretty common thing nowadays, where you just accept what the common held belief is, and well, everyone else believes it, so obviously this is the right way to go. You can see that pretty commonly with, J.K. Rowling. It goes, oh, well, she had to say something transphobic because everyone said she said something transphobic. And the minute you ask them to point out where, they can't, because there is nothing transphobic, she said, and no one's actually read the things that she supposedly did. And the same thing really goes for radical feminism. People like to talk about it, they say that we're so horrible, that we believe this, this, and that. But all of these arguments are based off of a misunderstanding of what radical feminism is about. I mean, sure, it's definitely not a thing that men are going to approve of typically, because radical feminism does say we're taking away rights from men. We are saying you no longer have the right to hurt or abuse women, and you no longer have the right to be treated as better than us. And so there will always be people who oppose that goal. But I do think that a majority of people who just blindly go against radical feminism are doing so because they're just going along with what the crowd says, and they haven't actually done the research themselves, nor are they going to try to. And letting people know, particularly those who are, mentally ill, who have gender dysphoria, who don't see any other options, letting them know that no, we don't want to kill you, no, we don't want to hurt you. We want to protect sex-based rights for women, and we think that recognizing that biological sex is important. And, we want to say that there are other options to treating gender dysphoria than just transitioning. And those aren't violent ideas. They're just ones that are unpopular and that they probably haven't actually heard before. So this is, a little short one. And if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, please let me know, and I'll see you next time. Bye.